Hi folks, so the short answer is yes, ginger and turmeric can be grown in New England. How do I know? Well, other folks are doing it. So the real question is, can I be successful? I started with 4 pounds of ginger, slightly under, and 3 pounds of turmeric. Bought them both off the same seller on Amazon, USDA organic. The ginger looked good. The turmeric, I don't know, I'll have more to say about that, but as you can see here, I didn't see a lot of little knobby-like things that would indicate that this would grow well. After soaking them for about an hour or so, I then kind of went to the stage 1 process here, getting them all lined up, fairly close spacing in a container, soil mix that I made myself, and that's just kind of the first step. I should also mention I'm using roughly 2 to 3 inch size pieces here. I think go slightly on the bigger side. I think that's better. That may have been part of my downfall with the turmeric. Maybe I went a little too small on the pieces, but we'll get into that more later. So after the pieces were nestled into the potting mix, I just covered them lightly, not too much extra soil, and then covered with a leaf mulch, and then ready to move into the warm area. My first attempt was to just put them haphazardly around the pellet stove, too low to the ground. They really weren't heating up. I was trying to use a heat mat, but I only own one. They're kind of expensive, so I had to come up with a different plan. So I got an old kitchen table covered with paint, and that got it up high enough, and I got everything up off the kind of the surface so that the heat would flow underneath, and that actually seemed to work pretty well. So temperatures were up there around 80 degrees like they need to be. A couple of other points to make here. I didn't feel like we were wasting heat because this is it's a pellet stove we used to heat the house, so it's heat that's being distributed anyways. And from a watering perspective, the instructions that I read said you kind of want these to dry out to get them to sprout. So sparse watering at the beginning and then watering just to kind of keep them moist enough to keep them growing. That's kind of vague, but it's trial and error for me too. Oh, and from a timing perspective, I started planting these January 4th. So what I read said it takes about 10 weeks for them to sprout, and that was pretty close to true. So that's pretty much the end of stage 1, getting them to sprout and getting them to stage where they've got maybe at least 1 or 2 leaves before we move on to the next stage. Just want to show you how I get these ginger seedlings out and transplant them into another bucket. So let's see, I'll go for this one. I'm just going to carefully get underneath it, trying to figure out which rhizome it's coming from. So this actually came from a very small piece of rhizome. Right, being gentle, trying to get as many roots up as I can. Now, here's the original rhizome and a new rhizome. This one is quite small, formed off of it. That's the new growth. So I want to gently snap that off. So you can see that well. I've snapped that off. I'm going to put this back in because it may sprout again. It's a pretty small piece, but could sprout again. So planting that back in. Got a nice set of roots here on this one. Again, it's pretty small, but they seem to be pretty hardy, so hopefully these will grow. I've got 3 here. Here's another one, a little bit bigger, nice set of roots. Another one here. They seem to have gotten a little bit leggy in here. It doesn't get a lot of sunlight. I had it close to the pellet stove so that it would be nice and warm. These things like to be 80 degrees when they're sprouting. And now I'll get them over into a more sunny window for this next phase of their life. It's still too cold outside to go in the greenhouse, but we'll get them potted up here. I do 3 to a pot, and then eventually they'll spend some time in the greenhouse, and then when it's warm enough, they'll go outside into the raised beds, and then I'll be harvesting probably around the September-October time frame. Okay, since my last attempt was not on camera, I'm going to try to show you this again. So I think you can see this now. Here's the old rhizome. Here's the new growth. Came off the side, new shoot. I'm just going to snap that off very gently. Right, leaves a small wound that'll heal up. That'll go back in. And we got a nice root mass here. That'll get planted and that'll continue to grow. So hopefully that was much better. Gonna spread the roots out a little bit. I want this, the height of this to be up around here. So got some extra, potting soil. Try not to make too much of a mess in the living room so I don't get in trouble, but a little mess is inevitable, I suppose. Get that one sort of potted up where it needs to be. This one I want right about here. Hopefully you can see this. And it's a little tippy till I can compress the soil a little bit, but spreading the roots out on this guy a little bit. Maybe a little bit more soil. All right, and here I just wanted to show you what it looked like in the pot with the leaf mulch all nice and tidy. And here we are over by the sunny window. 47 of them thus far, all potted up. The ones that have been potted the longest over on the right, they look the happiest. Even though I'm optimistic, I would also have to say that, the ginger's not perfect. I've got good numbers, but like we've talked about, they're kind of leggy. It makes me nervous. I don't want to have to stake them. And some of the leaves don't look all that healthy, a little brown here and there, so I've got to try to figure that out. And as far as the turmeric is concerned, well, it's not a complete failure, but it hasn't gone well. I've had 6 sprout, only 5 remain. One of them hasn't made it. They're pretty small, as you can see in these pictures. So I ended up going back to the store, just grocery store bought, trying some more, see if I can get those to sprout. So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned for part 2, and we'll let you know how this all turned out.